Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Room Podcast. This is episode 5. I'm your host, Joe Baress, along with my co-host, Joby Fawcett. Joby, we made it to episode 5. How we doing?
I'm doing quite well, Joe, and congratulations. This is quite a milestone for this podcast. So I'm very happy for you, and also that we got to another point of the fall sports season here where we can brag about more athletes here in the area.
Absolutely. And one of those athletes is a Western Wayne girls volleyball player, Raegan Palmer, who joins us right now. Raegan, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Let's go through what you did last week. You had 27 assists, including the 1,000th of your career in Western Wayne's 3-0 victory over Montrose. You also had 27 assists, 6 digs, and 2 aces, and a big come-from-behind victory, 3-2 over Abington Heights. What I'm going to start off with is, obviously, we spoke yesterday as well, and one of the people you talked about was Kaylee Romanowski. You kind of followed in her footsteps, kind of took her position on the volleyball court, and you played the same sports that she did when she was at Western Wayne. What were you able to learn from Kaylee while you were at Western Wayne?
I was able to learn the standard. Like, she definitely set an expectation, and it would have been hard, just to leave kind of her legacy behind. So definitely, like I said, she set the standard, and yeah.
Well, you certainly have been outstanding in your career at Western Wayne and following in her footsteps, but there's really a really cool culture there at Western Wayne for girls volleyball. It really dates back several years ago when Darren Thorpe took over, and to kind of explain to everybody about just the excitement and the energy that you all have as being members of the Western Wayne volleyball team.
Yeah, so definitely, going into games, we definitely know that we have to be hype. So, in the games, I'm the hype man of the team. So no matter what, if someone's making a bad play, I'm still hyping them up. They make a good play, we're all hyped. So it definitely just kind of keeps us together and then keeps our confidence intact because we know that mistakes happen. So definitely doing that, keeps people's spirits up, doesn't get them down.
Yeah, absolutely. Piggybacking off that, you guys are off to a 4-0 start in the Lackawanna League. What's the biggest difference for you between this team and teams that you've been on in the past?
Well, this year, there's a decent amount of seniors in our starting lineup, so it definitely helps because we've been playing together, so we're kind of in a groove. And even, though Lauren isn't a senior, we've been playing with her since sophomore year, so we're all kind of in that groove. We're on the same page, so it just keeps us it's easy to play together.
Raegan Palmer from Western Wayne joins us here on the Film Room Podcast. She's our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week. And Raegan, Joe mentioned the outstanding week you had. Let's start first with reaching that milestone of 1,000 assists. Anytime you reach something like that on a personal level, it's got to be a great feeling. Kind of tell me what it was like to celebrate that with your teammates in a victory.
Yeah, it was definitely surreal, especially because I had mentioned last night to Joe that I didn't start till my sophomore year. So still being able to start late and being able to still reach it is pretty cool. So
yeah, absolutely. You're a senior this year, obviously. How has your role kind of changed over the years, and do you like your role this year on the team, probably as a leader?
Oh yeah, it's great. I love sophomore year, it was my first year. I hadn't said it all freshman year, so I was a little timid coming into sophomore year, especially because there were lots of seniors on the team and they expected a lot, and it was definitely, after Kaylee again, hard to fill at first, but then once I got the hang of it and everything, it changed. And this year being a senior, it's definitely just so much fun. Watch the girls grow and get better, personally and as a team. It's really fun. I don't know. I get so hyped on the court.
It's funny too, because You mentioned the senior leadership of this team, and obviously, if you have a lot of seniors on a team that's had success and great experiences in your first 3 years, that's going to carry over to this year. And look, in your first real major match in the Lackawanna League against Abington Heights last week, you had to go the full 5 sets. And those matches, and that once you get to that race to 15, anything can happen. And I really think, just based on, the message that I received from Coach Darren Thorpe, is that you really responded. All of you and your teammates, came through. You've been through these tough times before, and you came away with a very hard fought win. How great was that for you to see all of your experience kind of pay off in a real pressure packed situation?
Yeah, it was so exciting, especially because early in the set we had gone down, we're down 2-0, and we were in a very, very similar situation last year. So he kind of just told us that, and then that enabled us to get some of our confidence back, and we built on it. And then we took the 3rd and 4th set, and he always says in the 5th set, it's the first one to 5. So they went up there, they got serve, they missed their serve, and we just built on it. So.
Yeah, and building off, wins like that, how's it going to help you moving forward? I mean, I know you kind of have a big week. I think you have Blue Ridge this week, later in the week. Obviously, you play later today. So, how are you going to use these close victories to gain experience and help you the rest of the way?
Abington's a very good team. They kept us on our toes. They read the court very well. So I think that we came after Fridays when we came in Sunday to practice, and we worked on some of the things. If they saw that we were set up for them to swing, they would tip it over. So it definitely made us we have to be more aware of our defense. And we came in, like I said yesterday, and we took care of that. So I think this week we should be pretty sound. So.
Raegan, I have to ask you, because of course I cover girls volleyball, and you're the setter, and we've had some great setters in the Lackawanna League over the last couple of years. Libby Zick is a 2-time player of the year. Sawyer DeLucy's an outstanding setter as well. When you have a teammate like Lauren Beamer who can really, really, put the ball down, how does that teamwork evolve between you and her, and the timing to kind of get that offense going in the right direction when you're trying to be aggressive on the offensive side?
Well, early on in the match is Coach says, set around to all your hitters, see who's really on fire. And I know that any game, obviously she, if we need a point, she can put it on the ground. So early on, I just try to spread it out, see who can, get it over also. But again, whenever we need a point, we just go to her, and yeah.
Absolutely. Obviously, you're a multi-sport athlete, volleyball, basketball, softball. I mean, I'm always fascinated with how athletes are able to balance all that. How are you able to balance all those sports?
Sometimes it's definitely challenging, but at the end of the day, I love keeping busy, and I love being involved. So I don't know. I'd rather just be doing something than, I'd honestly rather just be overwhelmed than just sitting at home and doing nothing.
Well, on that, I hate to ask this question because I don't know what kind of answer you're going to give in terms of, because we're in season now in girls volleyball, but you play multiple sports. What is your favorite? What do you enjoy playing the most, or are you just kind of attacking all three of them equally?
I definitely love basketball. I've been playing ever since I was in 1st grade. I started, and I do NEPA Elite, so I play that year round. So I definitely love basketball, but volleyball this year has been pretty amazing as well. So.
And, just real quick, I had written a story earlier this year about the popularity of girls volleyball right now in the Lackawanna League. I think we're up to 16 teams. How, being a multi-sport athlete, you play basketball. So how do you kind of get involved in volleyball? How does that become something that you're interested in? And then how long does it take you to kind of learn the techniques and the skill set to play the sport?
Well, definitely we don't have a junior high team. So coming in freshman year, I wanted to play 3 sports. I didn't matter. I was between that or tennis, and I chose volleyball. But honestly, it didn't take me long, like, to understand how to do everything. I'm pretty, like, I don't want to sound like cocky, but with sports, I pick things up pretty easy. So it wasn't too hard to understand. And yeah, so it just kind of came naturally, I guess.
See, Joby, like me, Raegan is a natural athlete. So that's
Yo, to
yes.
be honest, I've seen Raegan play volleyball.
Yeah.
I didn't need you to tell me that she's a natural athlete. You, however, Joe, seem to forget that I've also seen you in action.
Oh, that's true.
Just tread lightly.
That's fair. That's fair. Raegan, my favorite sport is also basketball. And yesterday we kind of talked a little bit about, your favorite player and that you follow UConn basketball. Have you been able to get out to any either WNBA games, college basketball games? Have you been able to get out there at all?
Not like at the Division I level. I mean, I've seen the U play, I've seen Kaylee play, but I've never gone to like a WNBA game or like a Division I or even II game. So
yeah, absolutely. I'd get out there if you can. It's become a real blast. Lot of people going to these games. It's pretty awesome.
Raegan Palmer from Western Wayne joining us, our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week. Outstanding week last week where she reached the 1,000 career assist milestone. And before we let you go, Raegan, I know Joe will probably finish off with another question, but being that you're a WNBA fan or a college basketball fan, did you get a chance to watch any of the women's volleyball, in the Olympics over the summer? Because I'm fascinated I enjoy going to volleyball matches, boys and girls, because again, a lot of the perception is from the public is it's kind of like gym class, but it's not like gym class at all. It's a pretty intense sport.
yeah, I love the Olympics. Like every sport in the Olympics, I love. So I definitely was able to watch that. I didn't follow it as closely probably as I have in the past years, but I watched them play China, and China was definitely good, but I think our volleyball team was pretty sound.
That's great.
Absolutely.
What else you got, Joe?
Well, that's actually it. I know you promised another question, but that's all I had. So
you're like Columbo. You have a long list of questions. And the ones that you run out, you throw the notebook away.
That's true. Raegan Palmer, our Athlete of the Week. Raegan, thank you so much for taking time out of a really busy day for you to talk to us. Congratulations on your accomplishments, and good luck later tonight in your volleyball match.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and yeah, thank you.
Enjoy it, Raegan. And listen, I know tonight might also be a very big night for the program, so wish you much luck and continue having a great season.
All right, that was Western Wayne's Raegan Palmer, hit a milestone, and we appreciate her joining us on the Film Room podcast. Her Athlete of the Week interview that I did with her on Sunday will appear in Tuesday's paper, and you could read that there. You could read that online as well. But Joby, there were a lot of great performances this week. I'm gonna go through a few highlights here. Another athlete out of Western Wayne, Jamie Chapman, a Western Wayne golfer, earned medalist honors 4 times last week and helped hand Lackawanna Trail its first loss of the season. He shot a 1/34 at Red Maples. He shot a 2/31 with 4 birdies at Red Maples. He shot a 2/35 at Skillet Greens, and he shot where are we at here? I think I covered them. No, I'm sorry, a 2/34 at Pine Hills. I left out one of his best scores. So big week for Jamie. We also had Lila Jones out of North Pocono Golf. She shot an 80 at Honesdale Golf Course to qualify for the District 2 individual tournament. Nisa Franczyk, high school Holy Cross girls soccer. She set a school record with 5 assists and tied the single game scoring record with 4 goals in a victory over Scranton. And also in girls soccer, obviously one of our star players in the Lackawanna League, Lilia Calvert out of Abington Heights, had 3 goals and an assist in a 6-0 victory over Wallenpaupack. and two more goals in a 3-1 victory over Crestwood. So there's just a few of the great performances from the week. Now, Joby, let's move on to anything to add to that, or do you want to move on to some high school football?
Well, Joe, I just want to kind of mention, obviously Congratulations to Raegan Palmer, and not only that, but she's going to have bragging rights. You mentioned Jamie Chapman there, the golfer from Western Wayne. I'm pretty sure that Josh Vinton was up for the Athlete of the Week award again this week after a good performance against Crestwood in the Lackawanna Football Conference, Wyoming Valley Conference game this past weekend. And so she gets bragging rights for a week. She gets to run Hawks tomorrow, and
that's right.
That's the athlete at Western Wayne High School this week. So that's outstanding for her. And yeah, Joe, listen, I always, it's really an unusual thing for me, but I follow all the sports the best I can. I'm really into tennis and volleyball, obviously outside of football, because I cover those two sports very intently. And, we have some great athletes in every sport. It's just amazing how these kids, every year you start anew. I know you have a lot of outstanding kids coming back from the year before or what have you, but every year it seems like somebody new rises to the forefront. And a lot of that is, hey, like Raegan Palmer said, I'm a senior now. This is, I've been here for 2 years. I am experienced. I know how to raise my level of play. And we enjoy honoring these athletes it's funny, Joe, because it just seems like it was yesterday that we wrapped up last year's Athlete of the Week ceremony in June. And here we are now, where I think we're 4 or 5 weeks into the Athlete of the Week program at the Times-Tribune here this season. So it's a lot of fun for us, and the kids certainly are rising to the challenge.
Absolutely. Joby, on that point, I thought it was so cool with Raegan. She said she was a hitter her freshman year of volleyball, and I was just like, oh, why'd you switch to setter? And she was just like, well, I had to replace Kaylee Romanowski, and obviously Kaylee's one of our best athletes over, the last decade or so. And it was just funny to see, like, number one, like, I feel like Kaylee just left high school, and she didn't.
She didn't, yeah. She's been out for 4 years now.
Exactly. It moves so fast, but it's also amazing to see an athlete like Raegan to fill the shoes of an incredible athlete in Kaylee, and, provide leadership and everything. And, and like you said, helping to continue to build a program. It's just really cool to see.
And Joe, let me emphasize this again. I know, of course, I'm going to brag about the girls volleyball players because I cover that sport, but I'm telling you, the setter has just such a unique skill set, because again, this is not like men's volleyball at the collegiate level where you'll watch and they're setting these athletes are 6'4" and 6'5", getting up over the net and spiking the winners down to the ground. As a general rule, the girls aren't much taller than 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", whatever. So you really have to put that ball in a good spot for these athletes. And the hitters have really kind of evolved as well. We've got some big time players in the Lackawanna League this year. Lauren Beamer from Western Wayne being one of them. She's closing in on a milestone as well in terms of kills. Mia Suma is one of the best hitters in the state. Okay. And the key, though, is you have to have that setter. Raegan Palmer, of course, is one of the best ones, but, Sawyer DeLucy at North Pocono is outstanding. You could argue she was the best setter, certainly in Class 3A last year in District 2. Libby Zick, 2-time player of the year. Now her sister McKenna has taken over as the setter there at Blue Ridge. So, yeah, if you have an outstanding athlete who can get that skill down, it's really exciting to watch a girls volleyball match. We have some really talented teams in the Lackawanna League and in District 2 this year.
Yeah, I was going to say you've kind of said it already, but the Wyoming Valley Conference, some really good teams over there.
Good balance there too, Joe.
Exactly.
Delaware Valley, which has dominated Class 4A in District 2, suffered a loss to Lake Lehman, which I think this is supposed to be one of the best teams Lake Lehman has had in girls volleyball in the WVC. And, you always get that challenge out of Holy Redeemer, which is a perennial District 2 Class 2A champion. And Berwick is always outstanding in girls volleyball. So listen, and in the Lackawanna League, Mountain View is very good in Class 1A this year. North Pocono beat Blue Ridge on Friday in an exciting match between two of the best programs in the Lackawanna League. So it's really fun, and it's really outstanding, and a great credit to the coaches and the players who have really kind of jumped on this sport. And look, again, we have 16 teams in the Lackawanna League this year. It's incredible.
Yeah, seriously, it's grown so rapidly, and it's really awesome to see. All right, Joby, let's talk a little high school football here.
You're forcing me to.
Hey, we went like 22 minutes without talking about it, so I think that's impressive. But so I want to start with your game, Joby. Well, I'm sorry, one of them. It was the game of the week, and it turned out to be a pretty good game. Valley View against Abington Heights. Valley View taking that one 18-13. A few stats from that one. Joby, is it Beyond McLean?
Mm-hmm. Yep, okay. That's correct.
Beyond McLean, 3 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown, including the 55-yard touchdown that gave the Cougars the lead late and ultimately proved the game winner. Zach Kwilinski had 78 yards rushing and a touchdown on 17 carries. It was also 3 for 4 for 89 yards and a touchdown. Preston Reed had 69 yards and a touchdown on 12 carries. And someone from Abington Heights who put up some numbers, Nick Bradley, 7 of 15 for 117 yards, 2 touchdowns, added 75 yards on 14 carries on the ground. Joby, when I got back from the Bell game, I threw the game, Valley View game on the TV, and it seemed like a pretty good one.
It was, Joe, and you know what? I'm very happy that it was, because as you know, I have had some terrible luck when it comes to selecting the game of the week. This dates back several years now. Proving once again that I don't know nearly as much as I think I do about high school football. But no, this was a good one. I knew it was going to be a pretty competitive football game based upon what I had seen statistically from both teams, and also having a pretty good awareness of what the two teams had coming back from last year and where they are at this point of the season. Both Abington Heights and Valley View had losses in week 1 and bounced back nicely, which I knew that both of them would do. And so in this one, Joe, you had that really big play ability of Nick Bradley, along with his receivers, Shane Brower and Sean Theodore, going up against really the rugged ground game of Valley View. And I have to give Scott Wasilchek, the head coach at Valley View, a little bit of credit, because he really just figured out after early in the game, look, I'm just going to run the football, and I'm going to shorten this game, and I'm going to put the football in the hands of my best players, and hopefully we'll make the last big play of the game. And Bayon McLean was able to do that when he hauled in a 50-yard touchdown pass reception there early in the fourth quarter. And the key, Joe, was, again, I think Valley View had run the ball like 14 straight times leading into that play-action play, and Zach Kwilinski hit him in stride, and it was really a terrific play to win the game. Again, I think Abington Heights is going to be a very formidable opponent moving forward, and I came away from that game believing more now than I did before that both of these teams could, hang in there and really compete for District 2 championships down the road here. But yeah, it was a really good game. It was competitive. It was physical, almost old school style. I think I wrote it in my game story. It was 4 yards in the cloud of dust, but they were on artificial turf, so it was rubber pellets instead. And, but that's what it was. And credit to Valley View and its offensive line. And look, Valley View came up with the big plays when it needed to. Big stop. There was a fumbled snap when Abington Heights had reached or gotten inside the 20-yard line that was really critical, resulted in a 5-yard loss, and the Valley View defense was able to keep Abington Heights out of the end zone late in the game. Richie Leslie made a nice play defensively, and the game ended. It was 18-13 Valley View. So Valley View improved to 3-1. Abington Heights fell to 2-2. And listen, Joe, here's the thing. Nothing in Lackawanna Football Conference Division I is going to be easy for anyone moving forward. No. Everybody's going head-to-head. North Pocono is good. Wallenpaupack is good. We know the Delaware Valley's 0-4, but come on, let's be real. So there's going to be some really good games moving forward here in the Lackawanna Division I.
I was going to say we'll definitely get to that prep Delaware Valley game later. I want to touch a little bit more on this one because Shane Brower of Abington Heights making an incredible catch. You're able to capture it, Joby, with your phone. You could see highlights from the Abington Heights Valley View game on our Instagram page, Times-Tribune Sports. And just also with McLean making that 50-yard touchdown catch, saluting the crowd for salute to service night. Just some incredible moments from these games. It makes it fun to watch.
Sure does, Joe. And listen, you had the battle for the bell.
I did. Yeah.
And look, we talk about rivalries all the time, and I've had the pleasure of going to a lot of the bell games throughout the course of my career. And I always say it, no matter what the odds, or however you may want to say one team is favored over the other. Of course, Scranton was undefeated going into the game. West Scranton hadn't had a win. Those kids from West Scranton will play hard in that game against Scranton. And I think you saw that in particular in the second half, once Scranton had a big lead, that West didn't just go away quietly. So that Bell Trophy means a lot to the kids on both sides.
They fought, Joby. They fought, and it was a good game to watch. I used to love watching the Bell game back in the day. Obviously, I went to Bishop Hannon for 3 years before the Holy Cross merger.
Joe.
Yeah, we were undefeated.
Absolutely.
We were undefeated. We never lost. So we kind of used to go to, West Scranton games, being that I'm from West Side, and especially the Bell game. So this is kind of cool being able to cover it. But like you said, West Scranton fought hard, and they played, you're looking for improvement. And I saw them in week 1 and I saw them this week, and there's definitely been a ton of improvement. I know it's an 0-4 record, but they played very well, very hard. And you had a couple players in the second half, Jake DeLuca taking over at quarterback and providing a little bit of a spark. And we saw a little bit out of Janye Sastre, 3 catches, 65 yards, and he had a rush for 24 yards, I believe, all in the second half. So there were definitely some positives that West Scranton could take away there. Jake Monet doing a real nice job improving West Scranton this season. But Scranton did pull away with the victory. They scored 21 points in the first half and win this one 21-0. Reese Whitman again coming through in some key situations, a 4th down play, catches a pass, eludes some defenders, keeps the drive going, and then runs in for a touchdown. He finished with 54 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. He had 2 catches for 36 yards. And a couple of things that I took away, though, from this game is that Scranton really has depth in their receiving core. And if you get those guys the ball in space, guys like obviously Reese Whitman, who I said, Memphis Shadow, Tay Weeks, Eddie Salazar, they could do things with the ball. And I'm sorry, also Chris Delisantro, who had the biggest offensive play of the game, a 65-yard touchdown catch. They spread it around, and again, their defense came up with, they didn't allow any points. That first team defense hasn't allowed points since the 4th quarter of game 1. And I was about to say shout out.
Yeah, see, Joe.
Matt Carrera had a nice game, making key plays. He had a strip sack, and he had a key pass breakup. He also jumped on a muffed punt deep in Scranton territory that if he doesn't get that, and West Scranton does, maybe this game's a little closer, with West Scranton on the 8 early in the second quarter. But, just key plays by him. And Joby, one thing obviously you learned last week and me as well is, we're trying to do more video and I made sure to take as much video as possible because you never know when something's going to happen, even 65 yards from the end zone. So I was able to get Chris Del Santro's 65-yard touchdown catch from Brody Coyle. So yeah, it was a fun night. And Scranton.
And Joe, listen, I don't want to interrupt you, but this really sets up a heck of a game this week with Scranton against Scranton Prep.
Oh, it sure does. It sure does.
Scranton Prep's had a really tough first part of this season with the 2 games out of state, with the game at Delaware Valley on a Saturday afternoon. It was 84 degrees. They're opening the season with Valley View at home. So this is going to be interesting now. So you look at it, what Scranton Prep's schedule has been. You start with Valley View, which is 3-1. You have to play those teams out of the state. Both of them only have one loss. I believe Canisius is probably undefeated. And then you have Delaware Valley, and everybody's going to say, oh, well, Delaware Valley's 0-4. Yeah, go play Delaware Valley on a Saturday afternoon out in Milford. See how you fare against those guys. So it's going to be an interesting matchup here this week, to say the least. I know this kids from Scranton will be looking forward to it. And, you mentioned the defense for Scranton. That group, even without Reese Spindler, who's been down with an injury, it's a pretty intense group. They run to the football and they make plays.
Absolutely, and that's been a real key. It was certainly a key in the Bell game, so that should be a great matchup this week. Let's touch a little bit on the Scranton Prep defeating Delaware Valley 28-25. Prep takes, I believe, an 18-point lead at one point, and Delaware Valley scores a couple touchdowns, and boom, they're right back in that game.
Joe, I think that's all you really need to know about the character of the players at Delaware Valley right there. Scranton Prep's the number 1 team in our area, the early favorite in Lackawanna Football Conference Division 1, builds an 18-point lead on the road. You're kind of getting yourself run out of town. You're 0-3. And what does Delaware Valley do? It responds.
Yeah.
And it comes right back and it closes to win 28-25. Now, that being said, how about Scranton Prep 2? Now you need a drive.
Yep.
Now you need to move the sticks. You can't let Delaware Valley get the football back.
Nope.
And they're able to convert a couple of first downs, run the clock out, Lewis Baress and Will McPartland. So, boy, what a terrific game that must have been for Scotty Walsh, the veteran. He gets a big one there between Scranton Prep and Delaware. He doesn't have to thank me, but he probably should, because I handed that one off to him. But I certainly appreciate him helping me out, giving me the opportunity to kind of stay home this weekend and not have to travel. But hey, he got it. I gift wrapped him an outstanding matchup.
You did, Joby. I'm sure he's going to listen to this when it's published, and I'm sure that thank you's coming.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure it will too, Joe.
There's a couple standout things from this game. Trayvon Dickey had 145 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns on 6 carries. That was aided by 2 third-quarter runs of 44 and 75 yards. 4 touchdowns. Also added 4 catches for 18 yards. And as you mentioned, Lewis Baress and Will McPartland. Will McPartland had a couple rushing touchdowns, 58 yards on 16 carries, added 5 catches for 58 yards. And Lewis Baress, 79 yards rushing, 12 carries. Also went 12 for 14 for 126 passing yards. So this is always a great matchup between these two, and it delivered again.
Yeah, Joe, I think it's 2 out of the last 3 for Scranton Prep over Delaware Valley. So that's pretty impressive.
Absolutely. You had mentioned, Joby, earlier, Western Wayne's Josh Vinton having another big game, this time against Crestwood. Western Wayne won 21-0. Josh Vinton had 140 yards rushing and a touchdown on 29 carries. He also had a 55-yard touchdown catch. And once again, he came up big on defense with a big 4th down stop. This is just further proof, Joby. It's something that both you and I know, having seen them. Western Wayne's a pretty good team.
Western Wayne's certainly proven itself to be worthy of one of the teams that we talked about in the preseason as a serious contender for the Lackawanna Football Conference Division II championship, and certainly is going to be right there in the thick of things when we get to playoff time in District 2 Class 3. And I think we've talked about this before, Joe. You look at that District 2 Class 3A bracket right now, okay? And again, we're going into week 5, all right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're at the halfway point, so you can really start to project some things. And there are 8 teams going to be in that bracket, all right? Just run down the list right now real quickly. I'm going to do off the top of my head. Western Wayne, undefeated, 4-0.
Yep.
Mid-Valley, undefeated, 4-0. Scranton Prep, 3-1, with its loss being out of the state with Canisius, New York.
Yep.
Wyoming area coming off an absolutely impressive performance against Lakeland. I understand Lakeland's rebuilding, but still 56-6, coming off a game where you kind of got banged around a little bit against Western Wayne. Wyoming area's 3-1. Then you've got Carbondale area 3-1 after its win over Holy Cross. And Joe, just a little nugget of information for you. Since Carbondale area's opening week loss to Lakeland, I don't think they've given up 11 yards rushing combined over the last 3 weeks.
Wow.
That's how impressive they were defensively against. And I know people are going to say, oh, it came against Holy Cross is much improved.
Yeah.
Holy Cross put up 48 points against Montrose. Holy Cross had a win a couple of weeks ago against Hanover. This is not your Holy Cross team you remember back when you were in school, Joe.
That's right. That's true.
It isn't bad. It's got good football players on it. And it was actually a pretty competitive game, even though at the end it finished 28-0. It was Carbondale's defense that really kind of shifted the entire momentum of that game because Holy Cross couldn't get a first down, couldn't move the sticks. Took all of the 3. They didn't get their first down till early in the fourth quarter. And Carbondale, eventually you're going to score touchdowns because the other team's just wearing down. And Carbondale was coming away with wins. So, yeah, I've given you 5 teams right there in Class 3A, 3-1 or better.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joby, even though Holy Cross lost, we still look to futures bright, and we're doing it. And I was hoping that you didn't bring that one up, Joby.
No, listen. Again, it's Holy Cross. Don't underestimate this team in terms of its history. Clearly, the numbers speak for themselves, but this team has some pretty good players.
Absolutely, Joby. So another thing that I want to touch on is Mid-Valley, a team that you mentioned, 27-14 over Honesdale. The key to this game, or the interesting thing of it, is Jacob Lesher, who's been just absolutely wrecking this league with just big stat games. He has 96 yards and a touchdown on 28 carries. And Brett Janoski, Mid-Valley quarterback, is able to step up here and prove that Mid-Valley could win in multiple ways. 19-25 passing, 219 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Connor Hughes has 9 catches for 115 yards. I mean, in this game, Mid-Valley was able to show that they are more than Jacob Lesher. Not that we didn't know that, but Janoski coming up with a big game at quarterback.
Yeah, and listen, Joe, here's the thing. First and foremost, yes, Jacob Lesher's a terrific football player. And it's when you're going to play Mid-Valley, the first thing you're going to try to do as a defensive coordinator is you got to try to slow him down. You can't let him go 85, 70 yards every time he touches the ball. Okay, so your defensive scheme is going to be to try to slow him down. And everything starts up front with Mid-Valley. The offensive line is terrific. Got good size. They're athletic. And they proved that with Brett Janoski at the quarterback position, you have to remember his dad's the head coach. So
Yep.
His dad and George Petrucci spend a lot of time with Brett. They've worked very hard with him. He got baptism by fire last year when he had to go in for Jordan Shimoleski when he got hurt in week 6 of the season, week 5 or whatever it was, midseason. And look, he's improving. He knows the system. He spends time working with the receivers. And if you have a defense that's geared, or the game plan is, look, we're not going to let Jacob Lesher run wild on us, we're going to give ourselves a shot here, well, then actually the other players are going to have to respond. And I think that's what you saw at Mid-Valley right now. And I think it also kind of sent a little bit of a message that, hey, this team is a complete team. And, Joe, what often gets lost in all the offensive numbers, the video game-like statistics in those games, is Mid-Valley's defense is outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, Reese Williams at the one defensive end is terrific. The linebackers are very good. We already mentioned Caleb Perry last week, how good he is on the defensive side of the ball. And with Lesher in the secondary, they're good, solid on all levels. So, yeah, I think Mid-Valley is a really good team. And the schedule is really kind of shaping up here in Division II, with Western Wayne and Mid-Valley kind of the top two dogs right now. So we'll see how this all plays out. But Mid-Valley's got a very, very challenging opponent this week in Lackawanna Trail. That's going to be a good football game too, Joe.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be an exciting one. And Lackawanna Trail, another team that really showed that their defense could come up big, limiting Dunmore to 30 yards rushing on 22 carries in the first half. They also finished with 8 tackles for loss and 2 sacks and a 28-7 victory over the Bucks. Obviously, Demetrius Douglas, 118 yards rushing, 1 touchdown on 8 carries, and Isaac Ryan, 112 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns on 8 carries. But I think Lackawanna Trail, another team showing that they are well-rounded.
Joe, Lackawanna Trail is well-rounded. Knew that coming in, but here's the thing. Everyone's going to circle that 28-7 loss to Western Wayne, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You remember back to the podcast we had following that game, because I covered the Lackawanna Trail Western Wayne game, all right?
Yep.
I had mentioned it was a much closer game than that final score. Now, that's not taking anything away from Western Wayne. The Wildcats were terrific that night. However, Lackawanna Trail was going in for the tying touchdown, first and goal at the 1. Western Wayne comes up with a huge goal line stand, which, you know how hard it is to hold a team out of the goal line from the 1-yard line on 4 plays? Of course you don't, Joe. You didn't play football. But that being said,
That's what I was about to say.
that being said, it is an extreme challenge, especially when you have the offensive weapons like Isaac Ryan and Demetrius Douglas, okay? That's early in the fourth quarter. That game would have been 14-14 by all indications, okay? Western Wayne happened to come up with a huge play. But you can't quantify how emotionally devastating that is to a football team to not be able to score first and goal from the 1.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That just rips your heart out. And instead of running onto the field and thinking, okay, we'll get a big stop here and we'll hold them in here and we'll force a punt. Well, yeah, well, then now you have to kind of work your way back to getting back to that 1-yard line. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you're just mentally not there. And a credit to Josh Vinton, he takes the second play and goes 90 yards or 85 yards, whatever it was, sets up a touchdown. Then it's 21-7, and the game's over at that point. Okay?
Right.
Lackawanna Trail, and I know Steve Jervis very well, the head football coach, okay? He is a competitor. There's no two ways about it. And he coaches with a lot of fire. And the one thing that he stresses at Lackawanna Trail, if you're going to play Lackawanna Trail and you may beat them, but they're going to give a good representation of their football program. I think he left the field that night a little disappointed in all the penalties his team suffered.
Right.
He not converting on a first and goal from the 1-yard line. That's not characteristic of Lackawanna Trail football. Okay.
Right.
And I know that staff over there, and I am telling you, he had a nice heart-to-heart with the players. And look at the last 2 weeks, Joe, in Berwick and Dunmore. Dunmore is a good team that likes to run the football, and we're not able to do it.
Right.
Berwick, we know what the kind of situation that program is in right now, but still. So the last 2 weeks, 35-0 against Berwick, 28-7 against Dunmore, 2 prestigious high school football programs. I think Lackawanna Trail's kind of righted the ship a little bit, which sets up a terrific crossover game between Mid-Valley and Lackawanna Trail on Friday night.
Yeah, definitely. Joby, I also want to talk quickly on Wallenpaupack's 21-14 victory over North Pocono. This is 3 straight victories for Paupack, beating an undefeated North Pocono team. Zayden Schock, wrestler, by the way, had 12 tackles, including a decisive stop in the game. And Drew Kiesendahl and Ed Kiesendahl had nice games for the Buckhorns. 68 yards rushing and a touchdown on 12 carries for Drew, and he added 9 of 16 passing for 172 yards. Also, Ed ran for 2 touchdowns, had 41 yards on 12 carries. A lot of praise. You said this on a previous podcast, Joby, but a lot of praise, even in a loss. Joe Brisky, 111 yards on 21 carries, 5 catches for 24 yards, but a lot of positive things about him coming up. Obviously a freshman, so that was an interesting game from last week as well.
Joe, congratulations to Coach Matt Naraki.
Yeah.
He's a graduate of North Pocono, comes away with a victory. He's now 3-1 at Wallenpaupack. And again, I go back to what I said earlier. When the season started, Joe, I kind of had prep, ahead of the firm.
Right.
In Division One because of all the outstanding athletes that team had coming back. Okay.
Right.
And then I thought, you always kind of get that same group. You have Scranton, you have Valley View, you have, and of course you have Delaware Valley. Okay. And then I thought you had this next group of teams. Abington Heights, which I thought had a lot of talent coming back. And then a lot of question marks, but I thought possibly these teams could be very competitive, those being North Pocono and Wallenpaupack. Okay. North Pocono clearly off to a great start. Tough loss against Wallenpaupack, but Joe Brisky's only a freshman. Chase Zimmerman's only a sophomore at the quarterback position. Pretty solid up front, and we know what kind of defensive attack North Pocono is going to bring to the table with assistant coach Randy Wolf there, Greg Dolan doing a great job with the offensive side of it. So North Pocono got off to that great start, 3-1. I still think North Pocono is going to be a factor in this thing, and North Pocono is going to play Abington Heights this week. So we're going to find out a lot more about those 2 teams. Wallenpaupack has Delaware Valley this week, so we're really going to find out a lot more about Wallenpaupack, and clearly we're going to find out where Delaware Valley's headed. It's going to be interesting for Delaware Valley too, Joe. In Class 5A, you're going to have to get a win or 2. It's not an automatic that you're going to make the playoffs. Right. So Delaware Valley's got to get its, game together here pretty quickly and put some notches over in the win column. So I think Lackawanna Division I now is going to be a lot more interesting than I initially thought it was going to be based on what Delaware Valley was able to do against Scranton Prep. I still think Prep's the class of that division, and everybody else is fighting for that knock them off. But I still think there's going to be some pretty decent head-to-head games between all those teams in Division I.
Definitely. Just to quickly get some stats from a couple of these games. Riverside beats Lake Lehman 42-12. Chase Sidonio 62 yards and a touchdown on 13 carries. 12 of 20 passing for 140 yards and a touchdown. Old Forge 42-7 over Hanover area. TJ DiMattei, friend of the show, 19 of 29 passing for 275 yards and a touchdown. Chris Rasmus, 8 catches for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joby, I think that wraps up.
What a great week last week.
But yeah, it was a great week. Joby, what is coming up? Obviously, you're working on Game Face. I'm once again getting in your way of doing your job by talking to me. So what's coming in Game Face, which will be in Friday's paper, as it is every week, a 4-page wrap section previewing high school football for the weekend. Joby, what are we looking at there?
Okay, Joe, I like to tease a little bit, but without giving too much away, you referenced what the main story is going to be coming up this week in Game Face, and I think a lot of fans would be very inspired by the story that's coming up. I'll be working on that tomorrow. I've done some of the background already today. My eyes are already swollen, Joe. I got news for you because we have an early week again this week. We have the Thursday game between Montrose and Riverside.
Right.
So we're kind of burning the midnight oil here in the early part of the week. Again, I think the game of the week is Scranton Prep at Scranton.
Right.
And I think game of the week B is Mid Valley at Lackawanna Trail.
Yeah.
So what I suggest, Joe, is I flip a coin later tonight. Head. If it comes up heads, I'll go to the West Scranton game. If it comes up tails, you'll go to the Scranton.
Joby, I love this. I love
And then
this.
I'll go to the other game. I'll go to the Mid-Valley Lackawanna Trail game. And I think either way, it's a win-win for both of us.
That's what I was just about to say. That is a win-win. I will not be upset whatever that coin lands on. So it should be an exciting week.
I know you're a big NBA fan, so I'm gonna do it David Stern style, the late David Stern. And I'm not gonna rig it in any way, shape, or form. I'll do it later, and
Good.
kind of like you used to do at fantasy football. You'd only put one number in there for Joe Baress, and that's
right.
number one pick every year. So I'll do it privately, and I'll let you know on the budget.
Exactly.
What game you have, all right?
You let me know, and I will be there, my friend.
Okay.
All
So
right.
that's what we got coming up in Game Face. And Joe, we have a lot of big events coming up this week across all the high school sports. We have a feature story. Don't forget going in tomorrow on a Mid-Valley tennis player if you want to pick that up as well. I've been trying to keep pace with all these other sports, Joe, doing the best we can.
Exactly. And yeah, there's an interesting story from our colleague Sam Freeman coming. It won't be in Tuesday, but it'll be in later in the week. A couple of star Penn State wrestlers came to North Pocono for a clinic. Carter Starachi and Greg Kirklet, and that should be a very interesting. Joby, I tried this new thing and I delegated that. I mean, it's interesting. We could do that sometimes.
Well, Joe, I've been a delegatee, if that's even a word, many times. So I can appreciate you turning the reins over to Sam Freeman, our colleague there. He's new. He's trying to get into some of these bigger stories. So good for him. I'm happy to see he's out there, and it should be a great story, Joe. I kid, but no, it's these are the kind of things we're trying to do. So good for Sam. Glad to get out there. I'm happy to see you delegated the assignment.
Yeah, absolutely right. So also, if you're into movies, you can follow the Times-Tribune.com/take2, where Rebecca Kivak and I actually just posted a tribute to the late great James Earl Jones, who died last week. And we're looking to review a movie this weekend as well. So you can follow us there.
Joe, you are multimedia. Okay.
Yep, that's right.
You have a lot of oars in the water. You're reviewing movies. You're doing podcasts. You're posting blogs. You're covering wrestling. You're covering football, trying to beat me up for the game of the week. I get it. Joe, I might as well take the rest of the week off.
Well, let's not go crazy here, Joe.
Well, I'm just saying. I can delegate too, apparently.
You could have a couple hours. Couple minutes maybe. But
Joe, before I let you off the hook,
yeah,
congratulations on Green Bay. That was quite a performance yesterday.
Malik Willis, Joby.
Listen, his quarterback rating is about a 12, so that was a pretty good performance yesterday. And correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but Michigan survived.
They sure did.
That was good for you, so they keep their playoff hopes alive. I can't believe I have to say that for NCAA football. But, Joe, the real highlight for the weekend for you had to be Georgia holding on for a 13-12. I know you're a huge SEC fan. And so for Georgia to hold on over Kentucky 13-12, I always enjoy when these very highly paid head coaches outthink the room and choose to punt on, I know it's 4th and 6, but it doesn't matter where you give Georgia the ball.
Right.
If you punt it to them, they are winning.
Oh, Joe.
So you can punt the ball and give it to them.
Yep.
At the 20 or the 25 or the 15. That's great. Or you can go for the 4th and 6 and either get it and you keep the ball, or you could miss and give them the ball at the 50. It doesn't matter.
That's right, Joby. That's right.
And I'm not saying I'm a better football coach than Mark Stoops. I'm not. But you can't punt there, Joe.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Joby, you're the big SEC fan.
Oh, how dare you?
You love it.
The only SEC team I even follow remotely now, and look, I watch the games,
Yes.
but I hope that C.J. Dupree from Lakeland does well, and that tight end. And after that, I don't care where the SEC. The SEC and the Big Ten right now are the only college conferences that anybody should care about. What I find interesting is this.
Yep.
I believe your former Pac-12 teams are doing quite well in the head-to-head matchups against teams from the Big Ten and the SEC so far. So that's what's
true.
Joe, we have 2 super conferences. This is what they wanted.
That's right.
And I love when the AP releases the top 25 and all the SEC teams and all the Big Ten teams. That's all the NCAA wants.
Yes. Absolutely.
Underdogs are gone.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. And Joby, I can't let you, I can't end this podcast without saying, I think the Cardinals just scored another touchdown.
Joe, listen, I always enjoy watching a Los Angeles Rams game, and Sean McVay, the coaching guru that he is, the man who does not allow his players to play any preseason game.
Yep.
Watch as each star player is carted off the field with some agonizing, possibly season-ending injury.
Yep.
Because they're not properly ready to play early in the season. And this happens every year,
Yep.
for at least the past 2 years. And look, I think the Rams season's over. They're cooked. It's a 17-week season, and I think the Rams are cooked.
It's just
And
terrible.
I have nowhere to turn, Joe. I have nowhere to turn.
That's true. Joby, it's just so disappointing. You wait so long and then the season starts and it's already over.
It's over.
It's over.
A 17, but they play 17 over 18, right?
That's right.
And the season's over.
Season.
Finished. I got nothing.
Yep. You're right about that offensive line.
Yeah, good. Good. They're not NFL good, Joe. That's my point.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're bad football players.
No, of course not.
They're not NFL level good. So that's a problem.
Absolutely.
You're trying to block out pros and Pro Bowlers with that group. Well, you see where that's getting you.
Good luck.
Good luck. The guy from The Dark Knight, right?
Yeah.
Who's the fox?
Exactly.
Good luck.
Good luck. Exactly. Your plan is to blackmail this person? Good luck. Yeah. Oh God. All right, Joby.
Thanks for ending the podcast on a high note for me, Joe.
I just had to.
Maybe I'll delegate not being here next week. How do you like that?
I think that's fair. I think I have that coming. God. Well, Joby, thank you again for taking out an hour of your day to talk to me. I had a lot of fun. Be sure to visit the Times-Tribune.com/sports to see all the content that we have. And obviously we get what we can in print as well. So follow along and get some good stuff.
Thank you very much for having me again, Joe. And believe me when I